everybody, and welcome to GenFriends. I'm your host, Sherry Hudson Passey from Carolina Girl Genealogy, and as usual, have a fabulous panel and a special guest. So let's get started with welcoming, Shelley Murphy, our family tree girl. Hey, Shelley, how are you?
Hey there. How's everyone doing?
So good. It's so good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. We've got Melissa Barker, our archive lady, straight from the archives. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
Good to have you here. And Bernice Bennette is here with us from Genealogists. Hello, Bernice.
Hello, hello.
So good to have you here. Well, I am really excited because our special guest is Taneya Koonce. And Taneya, she's got a whole list of stuff she does. She is a librarian during the day.
That's right.
For genealogy. Are you still the president of the Nashville Augs?
I am, yes.
You are. So
yes.
That's a heavy job as it is. That's the Afro-American historic. Did I say it right? I always say it backwards.
Right. It's historical and genealogical.
Genealogical. I always flip those two around. And
I used to at first.
I always have to flip. And another cool thing that you do, you're the co-host of the Let's Talk North Carolina podcast that's on YouTube. And
with Renata Yarborough Sanders. We have such a blast doing that.
This is your second season. So congratulations.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So the reason why, because you're a wonderful person, that's another reason why we asked you on the show, but you've got a project that we would like to talk to you about and maybe encourage other people to start these types of projects, but it's the historical newspaper indexing project, right?
Yes.
So just tell us how this got started. What are you indexing?
Okay. So in fact, you actually have the perfect segue. I'm a librarian by professional training, right? What do we like to do? We like to index and catalog stuff. And when I started doing my own family history and genealogy work, I quickly developed a love for newspapers. I mean, newspapers are such fantastic sources of information. And as you all know, can be hard at times to really delve into. So I wanted to do some indexing as a way to help bring some of that information out and make it more accessible for others to use. So it's been an interesting project to get going. I presented about it at Roots Tech this past February, and
we will put that link. We'll put that link in the post so people can find it.
Yeah, except the presentation isn't online.
So
it wasn't recorded. We were a special session.
Oh, okay. Well, darn. I guess we won't put the link on.
No, so I think this conversation today is going to be the most publicly accessible discussion about it, because that was not recorded and live on the site.
Well, tell us what newspapers are you indexing?
Okay, so it's going to vary. So I'll give you a little bit more context and background. Okay. So the goal of what I wanted to do was develop a framework that we can apply no matter what newspaper you wanted to index. Ooh. So coming up with a template in order to accomplish that can be shared with others for people to index.
Love that.
So, and it's not, it's not a difficult template. It's just basic fields, right? Name, breaking it down to all the parts, prefix, name, suffix, with some additional information about the context in which that name is mentioned. But what I really envision is pulling together a whole team of volunteers to do this in a crowdsourced way.
Okay.
So we're still kind of getting it started. With a friend of mine, Billy McNamara, we're going to focus on Tennessee first as our pilot project.
Yes.
Tennessee. So Tennessee will be the pilot in which we are going to launch this and really get the infrastructure, built out and fleshed out, and the logistics figured out.
Sure.
Awesome. I love the newspapers, and I probably need to do it more. It needs to be on the checklist, just automatically.
Right.
Because a lot of times we're doing research and we don't think of the newspaper unless it's during a certain time or whatever happened to the, the ancestor or whoever you're researching. So I think it's now right up there with the vital statistics.
Oh, I think so too.
It is for me.
Yeah, I think so too. And a lot of people just think, well, I'm looking for marriages, I'm looking for births or deaths, those obituaries, but there's so much more. I just found, hasn't even been 2 weeks since I found this, I discovered one of the newspapers where my ancestor had lived had been put online finally. And I go to search it, and it turns out that my second great grandmother, my paternal second great grandmother, had gone to jail.
Oh,
I love it. I love that.
It was in the paper, but she went to jail because she was having trouble with her. She had, when she married my second great grandfather, he already had 2 children. And apparently she had trouble with them because they tried to take dower land from her. She fought that. This time, one of her children had died in a railroad accident, and she had received monies. Well, they thought they deserved some of that money. And so they held her in contempt of court because she's like, I'm not giving them any money. And they sent her to jail.
Oh my
goodness.
It's a follow-up. They worked it all out and everything, but I thought, are you kidding? And I had posted, I just found out that my second great grandmother had gone to jail. And so I had all these family members going, who's that? What line? Which side was it on? They all wanted to know. So, oh gosh, that is really funny. Hey, Bernice has got a question, she says.
All right.
We have 2. The first, are you focusing on a particular subject matter in the newspaper, or is it just general?
General, no focus on any particular subject, except what were in the instructions that we're putting together for the volunteers. We're wanting people to capture things that are of local or regional interest to the paper. So let's say here I'm in Tennessee. Let me just pick one, Nashville Banner. Okay, so we want things that are referencing what's going on in Nashville and Tennessee, not the international, not the news across other parts of the state. So we really want to focus on the area where the newspaper is being published.
And is it various newspapers, or is this planned out which ones?
So for our pilot, we're going to pull papers from across the state. So we'll do East, Middle, and West Tennessee. We'll pull maybe about 3 or 4 papers from each state to use for our pilot. But the idea is, as this expands, it can be any newspaper as others embrace it. So, no particular subject focus, just things that are relevant to the area in which the paper is published.
Okay, and then the other part to that question is, since they are indexing, where is the index going to be located?
That's a very good question. So there's a couple of answers to that. So for the pilot project with Tennessee, we are looking into a partnership to give us the infrastructure to post it. I'm not going to say too much because we haven't finalized this yet, but to post it in a very visibly and recognizable, with a visible and recognizable partner. What'd you say?
I think that's fabulous.
Which would give great exposure to the project to really engage others to participate. Once we get this going and outside of the state of Tennessee, we are planning on developing our own platform to host the index.
Oh, great. Great. Melissa says she's got some questions for you.
Oh, newspapers are awesome. I use them in my own genealogy, but in the archives, working in archives, in the smaller archives like Houston County, Tennessee, I use them to find things about our county. We have here in Tennessee, and I know Taneya knows about this, we have the Tennessee Electronic Library. And you could tell us a little more about that, because I don't know the whole thing about that, but I do use it almost on a daily basis. But you can access the Tennessean or a lot of Tennessee newspapers from 1812 to, I can't remember what the date is.
More than 200 years of papers.
And so you can search. I mean, now we all know how search engines are. They're, as good as whatever they are. But so I've been putting in, like in Houston County, our main city is the city of Erin, E-R-I-N. I've been putting in going from year to year, putting in the city Erin into the searching that entire year, and I have been finding newspaper article on top of newspaper article on top of newspaper article about the city, which is in my county, and history we were formed in 1871, so I started in 1871, and I'm only up to 1880, and I have I copy each page, and I also save it digitally. I have a stack like this of newspaper articles. And but my question is, are you curtailing it to a certain time frame? For instance, only up to like 1900 or up to?
So we're going to start with papers before 1926. I think that's the current year we're at with copyright. Was,
I was gonna say, I wondered about
copyright being
you know,
not an issue.
if you're indexing, I don't know that copyright would come into play. Would
Right.
it?
So we can go further
Mhm.
because it's just an index. We're not
Right.
transcribing the article.
Right. That's a
We're
really
just
good
capturing
point.
the
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
Now, we do envision linking out to a full text online,
Mhm.
the full image online. So we're digitizing where we can. And so if we get a digital image and it's before it's during the period where copyright's not a consideration, we can post that online.
Mhm.
But if we start getting into years where copyright is of concern, then it will just be the index, and we link people to where they can go to get the actual
See it.
issues.
Great. That's great.
Mhm.
And then my other question was, without revealing anything, is this partnership going to be behind a paywall?
No, it's not.
Oh, awesome.
So it's not going to be behind a paywall. It's going to be publicly and freely accessible. So isn't that great?
Awesome. Good job. Good job, Taneya.
I had no
Awesome.
interest in putting it behind a paywall,
No.
none at all. So it's not going to be behind a paywall.
That's fabulous.
Mhm.
Okay, so walk me through. Say I wanted to help out with this project, which everybody
Okay.
would want to help out with this project. So do I get digitized copies of the paper, and then do I just start reading from the beginning?
Okay, so
Yeah.
we are going to be leveraging an online platform that already exists for transcribing documents. It's called From the Page. Have any of you heard of From the Page?
I haven't.
I think
On the
is
page.
that what-
Okay, so
I've
it's
heard
called,
of it. I've not ever, I've heard of it.
I'll tell you a little bit about it. So From the Page is a web-based platform for transcribing historical texts. So it's been used by libraries, by archives, by different user groups, and they're about, I'm going to get that year wrong. They've been around since, I want to say at least 8, 9, maybe 10 years. And I got a chance to meet the developers several years ago and got acquainted with it then, and it turned out to be really a good match for what we're doing. So this is kind of what it looks like. Let's say you are a society and you're interested in doing an indexing project. We would need digital images of the paper. So sometimes you might need to go to your state library and get it digitized, or maybe you have ability to digitize it yourself, but we would need those digital images. The digital images get uploaded into the From the Page website. So your volunteers create free accounts on From the Page, go online, they're shown one digital image at a time, and then a corresponding spreadsheet that we have set up
Okay.
so that they can transcribe the names off the page. They can do one page at a time. They could log in, do one page and say, I'm done, because they do that page and they mark that they've done it. And then there's a second person who comes along to review it. They can do one column of one page if they want. We just ask that they say, I've done column 1. So then the next person comes along and says, I'll do in columns 2 through 4, right? You can decide how much you want to spend your time doing it.
Gotcha.
So we are so excited to be able to leverage that platform. And then once the pages are indexed and reviewed, we can download all that as a spreadsheet file. And as a spreadsheet file, we can then import it into a database, a searchable online database.
Wow.
I think that's the program, because you just described 5-6 years ago. I did some indexing for a historical society, Louisa County, Virginia. And I remember I indexed I saw the papers, the log, that type thing. And then next thing I know, it looks like a spreadsheet up on their website. So I indexed 1865 to 1867 African-American marriages in Louisa County, Virginia. That was the one set I had. So I had an account, logged in, just like what you're saying. And the Library of Virginia, that's their big transcribe. It's not that company, but it's exactly what you described. As far as I know, it's not that company.
Yeah.
But we set up free accounts and all the stuff is scanned there. I mean, it's really fun. And what we've done 1 hour, so I'm giving a suggestion on Freedmanville Friday. We did a few weeks ago, we had the first hour, everybody had to transcribe something. Even if it was a paragraph, it was the first hour we got together. And so we walked through and, trying to explain the importance that if you help transcribe this, then it's accessible. That's it.
Exactly.
You know, you do this, you will receive. type thing.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, we took an hour and again, everybody had their own, you know, sign in, log in, because we started the week before, but it was so much fun. So thank you for doing this, because I'm researching Tennessee. So.
Okay, well, hey, we have to make sure you're on our list so you know what's going on.
I will definitely dedicate some time. Definitely.
Great. Bernice?
Yes, and I put it in the chat to see it, but what about the information that you get from Chronicling America, where you can search by name, year, state, subject matter? What's going to make your site different than what we can do with Chronicling America?
Very good question. So what's different is we're going to start with papers that are not available online currently. So we'll be helping add to the body of knowledge that's available online. You know, we have so many online resources, right? Like you said, Chronicling America, the commercial sites, newspapers.com, Genealogy Bank, right? We have multiple sources of newspapers that have been digitized, scanned with optical character recognition technology so that the text in them becomes searchable. That said, OCR has its limitations too.
Yes.
And, you know, I believe in the value of having human eyes looking at, you know, the paper. Yeah. So we do plan to do indexing on even things that are available on Chronicling America, because it just adds another access point. Yes. Because, you know, it's not a perfect search. So we do want to add to what's available. So we're going to do things that are not available right now. And then we will add value to things that are online.
Oh, exactly, because you know, we all know from other types of records, if you know, you look on one site and you can't find it, sometimes if you go someplace else, you find it. It's just simply the way it was indexed. And so that could help by doing these papers. You might not be able to find your ancestor on Chronicling America. It's not their fault. It's just the way things work out. Right. But it gets indexed somewhere else. And so that word popped out to that person and they wrote it correctly.
Yes. And if I can build on that answer a little bit more, because I've seen this in my own experience with the newspaper of my grandmother's hometown as I've been indexing hers. I can look up a name. We'll just choose Edmund Alexander, big wig in little town Plymouth, North Carolina, back in the late 1800s. I can see all his entries, and you see a natural timeline developing. Shelley, you'll like this, timelines. You see a natural timeline developing as you see what's being published in the paper. Edmund Alexander goes to Baltimore for his mother-in-law's funeral. Edmund Alexander and wife have a child. Edmund Alexander's, you know, brother-in-law's in town visiting from California. Like, and then you see, and Edmund Alexander's daughter gets married, right? You see this timeline that starts to come out.
Yes. That's wonderful.
Yeah, Shelley's going, yes, timeline.
I'm grading timelines from Maggie now. The deadline was Sunday, so I waited. So yeah.
All right.
So I think that's part of the inherent value, because when we search on websites, the information is not as streamlined in that capacity. So, you know, the more we can do to make information more accessible, you know, the greater, right? For the greater good.
Absolutely. Melissa, you said you had a comment?
Yeah, well, about the timelines, my project I'm doing with, you know, with the archives and the newspapers, I'm able to actually tell a fuller story of the yellow fever pandemic that happened here in our town in 1878. Because of newspaper articles. I mean, and when you find them one after the other, they actually tell the story. But what I was going to say about newspapers and about your project, and I'm so excited about this project, is that I'm huge advocate of genealogists using newspapers. I find that genealogists use it to find obituaries, and that's it. They quit and they're done.
Oh, but there's so much more.
I know. And I tell genealogists to read the newspapers from the first page to the last page. I have found things in the newspapers that I would not have found anywhere else. You know, even down to advertisements. And you know, the advertisements way back then, the snake oil advertisements and stuff. And they would always name a person. They would say, Mrs. So-and-so was cured from whatever. And I thought, those people are all made up. I thought they were made up, these people. But then I found one of my husband's ancestors' wife. And it said Mrs. and it was the ancestor husband's name in one of these advertisements. And I was like, maybe they're not made up. So, you know, you just don't know where you can find information in a newspaper and about, and it's and strange things. I love like the gossip columns.
Oh yeah.
Can you see, Taneya, when they start indexing those, what I call their community columns or gossip columns, they are chocked full of names.
Oh, all completely full of names. And, you know, I've seen others say this, and I say it too. You think Facebook has all your information. Newspapers, they would follow people. They were all up in your business.
There are things in the paper then, and even, I would say even like in the 1970s here, that you could not put in the paper today, like the list of births, the list of people in the hospital. Remember all those things about the letters left at the post office.
The visitors, as Shelley just said.
I've got some of my ancestors that I have barely any records for, but I have a newspaper of something that says they have a letter at the post office. And so that is precious to me for one of my ancestors that I don't have very much on, because it adds a little bit more to them, to their story, and to who they are.
Sorry, Melissa.
Go ahead.
What else is fun too is when you find court cases.
Yes.
Because they're
the notices.
They're word for word. You know, the prosecution said this, and they're just back and forth. So yeah, your privacy is much more today than it ever was back then. So you know, there's so many wonderful things. So this project is wonderful too. I just think it's fabulous, and I didn't realize that it's something that's going to expand. And that once the pilot is done, you're going to be looking for people for other states. And may I suggest you move on to South Carolina?
Okay. You know, North Carolina may have to be next.
North Carolina will be next.
I need some of those Iredell County newspapers, you know, so that's okay with me.
Well, and that's the good thing about this, right? Is like, I feel like once we get the infrastructure, you know, we can share it more, get more people involved, and we'll have papers from across the country, multiple states. So you could be our first indexer for South Carolina.
There we go.
That's right.
This is a perfect project for, like you said, a society to do. We've got a genealogy club here, and so we're called a society. It's our club.
Nice
it would be a perfect project for us to do. So we'll put the link in the blog post and on the YouTube channel so that
because we
figure out how to get started with you.
Right. Yeah, we'll have a link to a form where right now we're collecting people who are interested in. We will schedule a orientation session in probably, I think, the second week of August. I need to just double check with Billy on her schedule, but we want to schedule a couple of orientation meetings to just kind of show people the website and get some feedback from people about, you know, what they how they think this might work, and then get going. You know, in August, we want to get started.
I'm on that list, right?
Yes, you are on the list.
And
I'll add you to the list. Yes. So
I have another question. I'm going to ask it differently than how you responded somewhat to it earlier.
Okay.
So I get it. We're genealogists. We want people to use the newspaper more. Did something come up, or was something missed, or what that made you think about this? You know, what triggered it?
What started it?
You're taking this on huge.
I am.
But anyway, go
okay.
Something came up.
So, okay, let's see if I can walk through the steps. All right. So I do have a degree in library science.
Right.
And my program, we had to do a master's project. My master's project was an index. So I'm a huge fan of rap music. Like, if I were not a health science information specialist, I probably would be a rap music academic, because I love rap music. There's just the poetry in it, the social, you know, context of it. I love everything about it. So for my master's project in library school, I indexed a rap music magazine. I came up with my own terminology, my own structure, and I indexed a couple of years of this rap music magazine, because this magazine was not included in a database that currently existed for indexing music periodicals. So I identified a gap and I said, I'm going to explore this. So that was my first foray into indexing. Then before I started doing genealogy, my hobby of choice was cross-stitching. So I used to be a very avid cross-stitcher, loved everything about it. So I had a challenge in that. I tend to like designs of geisha and Japanese designs. And one day I said, well, I need to look through all my magazines and pick out some designs. And there was no index. So I indexed cross-stitch magazines, created a web-based cross-stitch magazine database so people could find designs based on their specific interests, based on the designer, based on the magazine, based on, all these different criteria. So then I gave that up and started doing genealogy. And my interest specifically in newspapers came from me looking in my own grandmother's hometown. The hometown where she's from, Plymouth, North Carolina, has a newspaper that's been in operation since 1880 something, and it's still published. So I started researching the newspaper to see if I could find mention of my ancestors. And I did find in 1899 a death notice for one of my my fourth great grandfather, who passed away at over 100 years old. And that's not something I would have found had I not been reading through all these old digital issues. Now, that paper now has some of those issues digitized and online, but it was at that time that I thought, what could I do to help make it easier for other people to find their family when the paper is not available online?
I think that's a great story.
It's a great story. The girl sees a need and she indexes it.
Exactly.
Isn't that just like genealogists though? Whenever we want to make it easier for ourselves, we invent things to help us. And so it's
and it helps, and it ends up helping everybody and not just
right. And that's truly what it's about, helping others.
I'm just hoping this project gets genealogists more interested into newspapers, because it's like you, Shelley, you said you wish you want to get more into newspapers. I think genealogists need to realize
use them.
Yeah.
But I'm not reading cover to cover. I am going in just the way she described. And I got 30 years behind me. And I'm only going in targeted where I need to sit back and not just go in for the targeted information. And I think that's what's so exciting for me, because I'm staying so focused and saying, I'm looking for any of the surnames. I'm looking for birth. I'm looking for death for marriage. Well, I might have just missed about the garden or the auntie from Michigan down to Tennessee to visit or whatever, which would add into, of course, the timeline or the story.
Exactly.
I also know that genealogists can get frustrated. It's like, well, I'm doing this search for the town of Erin. I see a lot of articles where they are talking about Ireland, and they reference to Erin. And I know genealogists can get frustrated when they have surnames like Smith and Jones and Brown. And
3.5 hours this morning was on Edward Smith.
Yeah.
And there's you have three of them in the same county.
Or you have a surname that is very common, that is, of some inanimate object or something else that would be in the newspaper. And all those results come up. So to have this type of index will really help the genealogists to be more successful, I think.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yes.
Accepting people outside of Tennessee.
Absolutely. Yes, we are. Because I think the benefit of that is
at the begging stage right now. It's everybody.
Even if you are outside, if your primary interest is outside of Tennessee, sign up with us now, see if you can attend the orientation. We will record that too. You get familiar with the process, and that gets you thinking about, well, what paper would you be interested in, and how can you secure digital issues? And then as we open up the platform for the other states, you're already prepared. So we would love for you to come on board now.
This is so much fun. What a wonderful project. What a wonderful thing that you're doing and opening up for everybody. And, I had thought that it was just a Tennessee project. So, and Tennessee's important. So not just in Tennessee, but
librarians have long vision.
They have long vision.
She's got a vision here.
Shelley, you wanted to talk to Taneya about another project that she's working on.
Well, when you guys at the beginning, you talked about OGS and this, but she has another thing that she does.
She's into everything. She's also on the NGS delegate committee.
This is something Academy of Leadership. So she's there with that.
So the Academy of Legacy Leaders. So yeah, that's my Facebook group.
Right.
And it has been so much fun. So I started it last year. And I'll tell you the reason why I started is because I have been blogging for about 16 years. And of course, the benefits of a blog, as you all know, is you start to make connections with others who are researching similar things that you are. People have questions. And there were some people that I would engage with frequently because of the blog. And I thought, well, I'd like to engage more. You know, what can I do? So I started the Facebook group kind of as a supplement to the blog to really engage more. And it has just really grown. We just crossed 1,100 members. So
I'm one of the members.
You're one of the members. But the way I kind of structure the group is I treat it's a group for genealogy inspiration, for education, and camaraderie. Because I really feel like we've developed a nice community where we can all share what we're doing, what we're working on, help inspire each other. And then I do Facebook Lives periodically in the group. I've had Melissa on to talk about the great work that she's doing and what it means to be at archives and the benefit the archives has for family history. And it's just, I do these interviews to just show people what we're all up to, right? Because that's what it's all about. We learn from each other. And so it's just, and I do fun things and fun activities in the group.
Well, you throw out some questions too.
I do drop questions.
Just multiply. Challenges or questions.
Today the question was, do you have a TikTok account?
Yep.
Because I'm thinking about TikTok. So like, I want to know, do people use TikTok and how? So yeah.
And genealogy?
Yes.
Ooh, I see the lights going on.
Yes. Yeah. So it's been fun and I really enjoy.
Well, we'll put the link.
Yeah, we can add the link. Yeah, I definitely welcome people to join. And also I do tips and trainings and my particular, I don't do a lot of training on genealogy research process. My specialty is more organizational structure because organization is what I do.
You're a librarian, right?
I help people kind of behind the scenes with their organizational needs, particularly digital photos, medias, and other digital documents.
Yeah, so. That's wonderful. You're a little bit into everything.
It's fun. It's fun.
Fun, and you're fun, and we're so glad that you came to join us tonight. Does anybody have any last questions?
Well, I want to share something, if I can, about the project that I haven't shared yet.
Please
do.
So
the online index isn't the end all be all.
Oh,
we also have a vision to turn it into.
There's more.
Yeah, but wait, there's more
breaking news here, right? Is this breaking news?
No, it's not breaking news, but I would love to see the index turned into print publications as well. That they can be deposited into libraries and other institutions. So it's corresponding print documents too.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. This is a wonderful, wonderful project. And like we've all talked about, we've all got areas where the newspaper that we need and we want has never been touched. It's never been advertised. It's never, nobody's ever done
it. Sitting at the local level and I'm 2 states away.
Yes.
That's the bigger thing. It's not online, which is great because then you have a chance to go to where your ancestors were at and etc. So
I mean, you do have an opportunity, and I'm sure Taneya has gotten phone calls or emails, do you have this newspaper? Do you know how to get to it? And will you look this up for me? But gosh, we don't want to wait. We want
you want it now.
We want it now, especially when we're on a roll, we don't want anything to stop us. So we don't want us or going down that rabbit hole. We don't want a safety net. We want to keep on going.
Yeah. And the great thing about sharing it at this stage is really getting feedback from others. And I'll give you an example. When I shared it at Roots Tech, someone said, well, are you going to indicate if there's a photo of the person in the paper? And you said, I hadn't thought about that because right now I'm dealing with so many older issues. But as we get into the 1900s, there will be photos.
There will be.
So we added a field so people can say there's a photo, right?
Yeah.
So I love getting feedback from others because collectively we can make a much better process.
Yes, exactly. Fabulous, fabulous. This has been so much fun, and I am looking forward to hearing how it's going and working on it, and hopefully getting some South Carolina papers done.
That's right. That's right. Well, my
Stay in
stepmother has
North
family.
Carolina, or North Carolina. That would work for me too. I don't have
No.
anybody yet. I don't have anybody in Tennessee that I know of. That doesn't mean I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe the
Well,
Tennessee papers will show me that I do.
yeah.
You just never know. Thank
You
you.
never know.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been so much fun. I'm very excited, and I'm hoping that through this episode of GenFriends that you'll get a lot of volunteers, people wanting to help you so that they can then move on to doing it for the places that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thank you for the opportunity to share. Like I said, we're still, at the beginning stages. We got to get the infrastructure built, but it's my hope that by the time Roots Tech rolls around next year, we can continue to share it, and we'll be in a much more mature stage by then. So.
Exactly. Well, I'm hoping you're going to be bombarded with people asking for more information. We will have all of that on the YouTube channel, and also in the blog post. So with that, we will say goodbye, and we'll see you next time on GenFriends. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.